Middle-earth Shadow of Mordor has been getting rave reviews as of late, and I thought I would give you my input on why I think it's doing so well. Well, everyone has been going on and on about how similar it is to Assassin's Creed and the new Batman Arkham series, and they are very accurate. There's a lot of similarities there. First of all, with all the combat, it uses a very similar free-flow system to what the Batman Arkham series uses. And there is a lot of sneaking and assassinating, just like in Assassin's Creed. And it's not just that they do similar things, but it just feels the same. I mean, when you're crouched and sneaking around, when you stab people in the back, it's just very, very familiar. But considering the fact that I love both Assassin's Creed and the Batman Arkham series, I think this is a fantastic pairing, and I really, really enjoy it. The big difference, though, with the combat system is that it's very similar to that free flow combat system from Batman, but it's smoother while simultaneously being more simplistic. There are so many options in the Batman game, but from here all you're doing is you're trying to get a hit streak going, and after a while, when you get it high enough, you can do certain actions, such as do a execution, or you can brand someone during combat. You can do more or less what could be considered like a ground pound that knocks people down. There's a few options like that, but I don't think there's quite as many as there are in the Batman games. Assassin's Creed is much more intricate when it comes to its mechanics than Shadow of Mordor is, which I think is fine because there's a lot of other aspects that they've added into the game to help complement using a very basic similarity to Assassin's Creed. I do enjoy the fact that there is a leveling system in here. It's not extremely intricate, but it has multiple tiers to it. First of all, as you're out killing people, doing quests, doing side quests, you gain experience points. And while you do not have an actual level, you gain ability points that you can spend into getting different abilities for your character. These can supplement either your basic combat skills as a ranger, or they can supplement your wraith side from Celebrimbor. And beyond that, as you do some quests, as well as when you're dealing with the orcs and their confrontations with each other, you get power points. As you gain more power points, you gain access to a lower tier, or I should say a higher tier, of abilities for your character. So these kind of work off of each other. You can get 15 ability points, but if you haven't used any power points yet to gain more access to more tiers, you're not going to be able to get all the cool stuff yet. Though also keep in mind that a lot of those actually unlock automatically and are given to you over time through playing through the campaign. The third system is a system in which it's primarily done through side quests, and you gain currency, Mirian, I believe it's called. And as you gain that, you can buy extra stuff for your character. It's very simplistic in what you can buy, but the higher level stuff does cost more. You can increase your health, you can increase your focus, that's what you use to slow down time. You can increase the amount of arrows that you carry, and you can increase the amount of runes that you can put onto your various weapons. Once you have actually increased all of your weapons up to the maximum amount of runes, then you have a special ability that you can buy, which is also very expensive. It's the highest tier in these categories, that allow you 15 to 20 seconds worth of awesomeness, so to speak. So with your bow and arrow, you can get an infinite amount of focus for 15 seconds, an infinite amount of arrows. You can use fire arrows, which is something else that happens when you get like hit streaks. You can use a fire arrow. With just your basic sword, you can get an infinite amount of executions for up to 20 seconds. With your dagger, you get the ability to be virtually invisible for 15 to 20 seconds, so you can walk around and stealth kill everyone in an area. Even though you walked into the middle of them, you'll suddenly be invisible and you just kill them all. So that is really cool. They're also very useful. They've gotten me out of a tight spot more than once, and I really, really enjoyed that. I've heard from a lot of people that they died a lot during this game, and I don't know, I don't see it. Maybe I'm a more cautious player. I maybe died a dozen times at most, and actually at least half of that was from me wandering through a specific area and getting attacked by a pack of Karagor and having them take me down. And that gets really frustrating, because I can run by orcs and outrun them, and they can't do anything to me. But the Karagor, 3 or 4 of them, if I don't nip it in the bud right away, they take me down and I'm dead as a doornail. Then there's also the giant troll creatures, the Graugs, which are really cool, but you have to make sure to be aware of them for the first half or more of the game. As you progress through the game, you learn how to deal with them properly, you gain access to the mechanics, and by the end of the game, they're your bitch. I mean, quite simply, I can kill one in 3 button presses. It's that simple. It's really kind of sad. But they are really quick and easy XP at that point if you still need experience, but at the same time, it seems anticlimactic to be able to teleport to their head and then immediately stab them through the top of the head and kill them, because that's what you end up doing. At the very beginning of the game, I did feel weak. I was very wary of getting into combat with more than a couple guys at a time. I would frequently run away because you really do need to. If 10 guys show up, if you're not right on it, because you don't have any real skills or abilities at the very beginning. You have a couple of very simplistic things. You don't have very many arrows. You don't have a lot of combo things to do. You can die quick and fast. But by the end, I felt so powerful. It was like, oh no, there's 15 guys here. Well, this might take another couple minutes, but I'll totally take them all out. It's not that big a deal. Oh, and there's 3 captains? Psh, I can take them too. Whatever. But it's not until the end you feel really powerful, because you have to get 2/3 to 3/4 of the game before you learn how to brand. And for those who don't know, that is when you put your hand on the side of the face and you take over their mind. They become your soldier, and you can make them fight for you in the middle of combat. And it takes so long for that to happen. And I admit that it was frustrating having to wait so long, but I think if they'd pushed it out there too much earlier, it would have felt too gimmicky, or it would have felt like it would have been less interesting, because I was really craving it by the time I got it. If I'd had it right at the beginning, I would have been using it all the time, and I wouldn't have learned how to be innovative with all of my other powers. So this, of course, brings us then to the Nemesis system. The Nemesis system is really cool, but again, I have this problem where I didn't die very often. Problem, right? So I didn't experience it quite as much, though more than once I did have to kill the same guy, and that's part of the Nemesis system, because depending on how you kill them in the very end, you might just run them through the chest, right? Well, they'll come back with stitches, and they'll have scars and stuff, and they're like, yeah, I'll kill you this time, and I had this happen with 2 or 3 different guys where I had to kill them 3 or more times because they kept coming back. But it was neat to get to see all the differences that have changed about them and what they would say to reference what had happened the last time. I had a guy I stabbed through the head, and he came back, but he had this wicked metal spike thing across half of his face, and it was just amazing to look at. And then every time you encounter a captain, they stop and you have a little moment where they talk to you and they say, yes, I'm going to kill you, or if they remember you from a time before, they'll reminisce about that, and it's like, I'll get you this time. And unfortunately, the drawback with that is there are a couple orcs that are not smart enough to speak, and yet they still take this time. So you'll be sitting there in stunned silence for about 10 seconds while they gibber at you. I mean, that's all it is. Like, and that's it. And I'm like, oh my god, could you just get to me killing him already? And it would drive me nuts. But beyond that, the side quests. You have multiple types of side quests. You have collectibles. You have artifacts that you can track down and find. And incidentally, all side quests are automatically on your map when they're available. Even when they're unavailable, they'll be there and they'll say, you can't do this yet, and it will give you a reason why. So you can know, oh, I need to go do this so I can get to them. So that takes kind of the mystery away. You don't have to go through anything to find them. You just run to the marker on the map, and there it is, right? So the collectibles, you have artifacts. When you pick them up, it's very much like the new Tomb Raider game, where you can examine an item and you can get more information about it. Except with this, there's like this little blue glowing spot, and your controller will vibrate, and then when you find it, you click on it, and it gives you a story. It gives you a little bit of what happened with that artifact, and it's not just written, it's actually spoken to you by who it happened to, and there'll be more than one person. There's like 40 of these, and it can depict a really interesting story about what was going on in the previous years and wars and all that type of thing, and it's really cool. The next thing I think was kind of neat is you can track down what is called, I'm going to butcher this name, it's I think Ithilden, which is a special type of mithril, and as you get it, you end up forging it into this portrait like on the side of a rock. It's just something that pops up, so you got this, and it starts creating this picture. And I was so hoping by the end it would turn into like this portal that would give you something interesting to do, but all it does is you just get this really cool picture by the end, which is still neat because it depicts some interesting information about the Lord of the Rings world and Middle Earth. Other than that, you also have side quests that you can do for all of your individual weapons. What they do is they call it you're forging their legend. So it will tell you go to this quest site, and it will be telling you information like, oh, he snuck in and he slaughtered everyone in the camp and no one saw him. And so the quest is to kill 10 Urak without being detected. Okay, and so it's almost like you're looking back at a story and then trying to make that story a reality. Kind of like the memories in Assassin's Creed, except for you're trying to create the legend moving forwards. Like you have a goal in mind. I want this to happen, so that's what you do. That's mostly it for the side things. You have 10 each for each of your weapons, so it's 30 side quests. There's 42 artifacts and like 30 of the Ithilden, so that's a lot to be tracking down. So for each of these side quests, you get what is called that currency, Mirian, right? And so I have this obsession that once things appear on my map, I have to go after them, and I think this is part of the reason that the game was easier for me and I didn't die as much, because I was running around. I got all these collectibles, I got all these Mirian to begin with, to the point where by the time I was 2/3 through the game, I upgraded everything already. I mean, I was uber powerful to the point where the last part of the game, the stretch, was really simple and it was easy. But at the same time, that's a lot of fun because you're really working your way up from being weak to more powerful. So that's a lot with the mechanics, but what do we have with the story and the environment? Well, the graphics are breathtaking, they're beautiful, but they're somewhat wasted on the fact that you're in this crappy place. I mean, yeah, you're on these plains and there's these rocky areas, somewhat desert, you're in a cave, but that's it. There's not a lot of variation. And as attractive as it is and the mechanics are fun to navigate this place, it just felt like there should be more. But even with that, the story was really fascinating, but similarly it was just way too short. There's 20 story missions, and the only thing that makes it take long is 2 of those missions make it so that you have to brand 5 war chiefs. Or, well, one of them is you have to kill them, and the other one is you brand them. And these take place on 2 different maps, because it's not one giant open world. You have 2 different maps that you hop between, which, again, I think they should have just been able to connect those. It would have been, I think, simplistic and not that difficult. They don't look different enough for them to be 100 miles from each other. They're right next to each other. You know they are. The first area, all the guys are fairly simple to deal with. Your war chiefs don't tend to get much above level 10 unless you've been getting killed by them frequently. The second band of war chiefs and guys on the next map are much more of a challenge. If you take out those dealing with the war chief quests, there's only 18, and you can go through those probably just in a few hours. As a completionist, I probably went through and got everything in 25 hours, give or take. My number on my Xbox isn't exact because when you leave it paused, it still counts the time, and I left it paused for extended times every once in a while. But there's also a couple side quests where you can collect herbs when you go around, which I think is a little silly. There's no story, there's no reason. There are hunting quests, which I think make a little more sense because, I mean, going around killing animals, plus part of the main quest line is you meet a dwarf who teaches you how to hunt not just Karagor, but the Graug. So there's logic and that makes sense, but the herbal gathering thing, I'm like, what is this, World of Warcraft? It makes no sense to me. With all of that, it was building up to this really epic, fantastic story. There were 3 guys that killed you in the beginning, so you're hunting down these 3 guys. A little over halfway through the game, you meet the first one, and it's this fairly challenging fight. It only took me 2 tries, but it was lengthy, and you have to deal with all these hordes of orcs or Urak coming at you. But I still took him down, and it felt like a challenge, and it was fun. You get to the last part of the game, you're like on quest number 18 or 19 of 20, and you get to the second guy. You banter with him, and then it gets to a point where you just have to keep sneak attacking him, and that's it. You do it 4 or 5 times, he's dead. And it felt like it was lackluster. It's like, why am I doing this? It should have been better. You made the first boss battle more interesting and far more challenging than the second. And then it gets worse because you get to the third, and which is I want to say the Black Hand of Sauron. You have to deal with him. Well, right before him, you have to deal with, he has his own war chiefs. He has 5, so they're the 5 talons of the hand. But you also have your 5 war chiefs that you've branded, so it's a 6 on 5, and not only have I leveled myself completely, but I've got a bunch of really badass war chiefs because I made sure they were high level, and then we just nuked them, walked up to the Black Hand, and then it gave us a cutscene, and I did quick time events until he was dead. Like 4, maybe 5 quick time events at very most, and he was dead, and that was the end of the game. And that was complete and utter bullshit that disappointed me so much. This fantastic build-up. I'm like, the story is great, but you have to let me take an active role in killing him. I don't want to just hit the B button when you tell me to. Occasional QuickTime events are perfectly fine. I think they totally have their place to keep you, mentally there and on your toes, but at the same time, a boss battle should not be QuickTime events. That's my very strict opinion. It just cheapens it. I mean, the Black Hand of Sauron was so easy to kill. It felt dumb. This game, it does have its shortcomings, but it has so much that's fantastic about it. Like, yeah, the environment is a little bit repetitive, but it's still really beautiful. It's wonderfully rendered. The characters look fantastic. The depth of the world is fantastic. The mechanics are nice. They're not really in depth, but they're a lot of fun. Decent amount of customization when it comes to leveling your character. No customization when it comes to what it looks like, which is something else. I did pre-order it, so I got the Dark Ranger pack, and when I got that and I put it on, I thought it looked pretty cool, but you don't have it on in cutscenes, and by now I've come to expect that. That should be a standard. If I'm in a cutscene, I should have whatever gear on that I have in the main game. It's not that difficult. But with all of that, I think this is a great game. I'm looking tremendously forward to the idea of them having another one. Like, they left it wide open for a sequel. It's so... because you take out the Black Hand of Sauron, you're kind of pissed at Celebrimbor because you find out certain things which I won't reveal, but you're still bonded with him. And it comes down to the fact that you still both hate Sauron for what he's done. And so Celebrimbor suggests, well, we can make another ring. And referring again to the Ring of Power. And so that in and of itself, it leaves it wide open that, it could be decent closure if you took off that last couple lines. But if the game did well enough, which it's done fantastic, again, I love it. Hopefully we'll see another one here in a couple years. If we do see another one, I want to see a little bit more in-depth, maybe character customization, some more expansive gear options. Maybe one large map instead of a couple of smaller maps, and they did feel pretty small at times, but they do have good quick travel. I mean, it was very easy to access and go from one place to another. It was very, very convenient. I love quick travel. If the game does not have quick travel and has an open world environment, the game makers could just go to hell as far as I'm concerned. Yes, I highly endorse this game. I think anyone who is either an Assassin's Creed fan, a Batman Arkham fan, or a Lord of the Rings fan should definitely play it. If you like one or more of those, it's going to be fantastic. I've yet to hear anyone say anything extremely negative about it. So yeah, go check it out. I give this game 4 branded Uruk War Chiefs out of 5. Check it out, you won't regret it.